And just to give a brief introductory of myself, I'm George Homer. I'm an account executive here at Law Room and CampusClarity. Been here about 9 years and helped hundreds of higher ed institutions with online training for Title IX, Campus Save Act, drug and alcohol abuse prevention, bystander intervention, and other conduct related training topics. And so just to talk a little bit about our agenda today, we are going to spend about 25 minutes. We're going to talk through what we're seeing, what you're seeing, and so I'm speaking with colleges and institutions of various sizes and locations on a daily basis and want to share some insights relating to Campus Save Act and Title IX training that I see firsthand, and then we can talk about challenges that other institutions have faced. I'll also talk about the 7 elements of an online training program. I'll touch briefly on the Campus Save Act requirements. I'll go through some of the new student training content, as well as follow-up courses and refresher courses, and then we can talk about CampusClarity by the numbers and who we are as an organization. So I want to take a minute now to talk about what we see from other colleges and universities that have faced similar challenges for Title IX and the Campus Save Act. And so we talk about student buy-in, and so oftentimes in evaluating the program, the administration is quick to bring in key student leaders to help evaluate the solution. And so the thought here is just because it looks good to me and you doesn't mean it's going to resonate with students. And getting that wrong is something worth avoiding. So we always knew that our programs would be scrutinized by its intended audience. So whenever we develop new programs, we're quick to bring in focus groups to help ensure resonance and engagement. We also talk about making training available to the entire student body. And so since the Campus Save Act was modified in October of 2014, one of the new challenges for institutions is they no longer just to make training program available for incoming students, but they need to provide training or make it available to all students and on an ongoing basis. And so this creates a much larger number of considerations. And so there's not a silver bullet course that you can give once and be done in order to meet these requirements. We also talk about the administrative management of the program. And so oftentimes when evaluating the programming for institutions, the conversations gets driven by course content and the administration tools get overlooked. So whenever I'm diving into these conversations, I like to take a moment to emphasize how important the learning management system is in the evaluation and development process. Whether you use ours, a competitor's, or your own, the functionality is critical. And so we're talking about training thousands of individuals, uploading them into the platform, assigning courses, setting customized and automated email reminders, tracking progress, and running anonymized data reports. And so really critical to make sure that you have a solid tracking and reporting system. We also talk about ongoing training, and so we trained over 1 million students last year at over 600 campuses, and so we earned a 4 out of 5 from our post-training survey. We also received some great feedback from students and faculty about the program, and so one of the big takeaways for us is that some freshmen who took the course before the start of the academic year, the scenarios and context of the training didn't resonate at first, and only later after they were involved in campus life did it suddenly hit home. And so this is one of the big reasons we believe so strongly in ongoing training, whether it's follow-ups, whether it's annual refreshers, since for many students the challenging social aspects of freshman life aren't always what they expect they're going to be. So we talk about the 7 elements of an online training program, and so first up is educational design, and so the design needs to fulfill its mission to educate and engage. That means that the program needs to be designed for its intended audience, so whether that's a 19-year-old new student, a 30-year-old grad student, or a 50-year-old tenured faculty member, program needs to speak to its audience. We talk about a tailored experience, and so program needs to be uniquely tailored to your institution, student body, and faculty. You folks are tasked with educating at the highest level, and so your Campus Save Act should meet those standards of quality and mission. We talk about ongoing education, so the course needs to have an ongoing module to meet the Campus Save Act requirements, and this is a course that changes every year and allows an institution to reinforce its primary training program, reemphasize key elements, and adapt to the ever-moving target of the student experience. We talk about deployment and tracking tools, and so institution must succeed at deploying the course and reaching its audience. It's not enough to build and customize a great program. It has to get there. And that means there has to be an intuitive learning management system, an electronic notification system, preferably one with automated email reminders, so this doesn't become someone's full-time job. We also talk about tracking being mission critical, and so as we're talking about changing the culture of an institution, it's key that you have insights into how your student body is responding so that actionable strategies can be developed in response. We talk about product sustainability, and so having a provider that has the technical, legal, and customer service resources to make sure that the program is sound and works to meet your training and tracking objectives as well as compliance requirements. And this is critical as many new players have jumped into this market without having the infrastructure in place to support their solution. Not to be overlooked, the program needs to meet the Campus Save Act and Title IX compliance requirements, and it has to be adaptable in this regard because we all know that laws and regulations can change at the state and federal level. Of course, it needs to be flexible to meet these changes. And lastly, and this may seem less obvious, program needs to be cloud-based, and so you could certainly entertain developing and installing a program in-house, but the need to adapt the program to meet the ever-changing student landscape and the compliance requirements would make it cost prohibitive to do anything other than cloud-based. So I'd like to take a step back now and talk about what we saw from institutions struggling with Title IX training and Campus Save Act training in 2015. And so we know the July 1, 2015 deadline, we know it well, kept us here late, got us here early, so we know institutions had to have something in place for their Campus Save Act programming by July 1 of 2015. We know institutions had to show what they did on their annual Clarity Security Report for Save Act training. We know what the Campus Save Act requires from a training perspective. So all incoming students and new employees must be offered a primary prevention program. All faculty and students must be offered an ongoing prevention and awareness campaign. All enrolled students and then institutions need to have airtight documentation to show what they've done. I also want to touch on Title IX, which deepens institutional responsibility to train students and faculty on an ongoing basis. So schools should provide sexual violence training for students at regular intervals, and employees on a regular basis need to know what they're required to report on as well as how to respond to reports of sexual violence. And then in October of 2014, there were some changes to the Campus Save Act, and one of the big clarifications related to exactly who should be trained within a Title IX institution. So this slide further clarifies the need and importance of making the training program available to the entire institution. So it's not just incoming students, it's making the program available to all students and all employees. So we talk about the challenge of all of this, and so meeting these requirements has been a tall order for Title IX institutions. It's been a short window of time to find the right program, get it developed and launched, and of course do it within budget. So institutions have come to us saying, we need everything, we need it now, it needs to be good, and you know we probably can't afford it. And so that's the way that these conversations tend to go. This last 4 years, and it doesn't matter the size of the institution or the type. We talk to med schools, we talk to community colleges, we talk to public institutions, private institutions, we talk to everyone. We see the same issues, and so institutions aren't necessarily used to these accelerated timelines. So it puts considerable strain on the administration to decide on something that requires a high level of institutional buy-in from faculty, administrators, students, and IT. And so fortunately, we have SaaS to the rescue, or software as a service, and so Law Room CampusClarity, we're based here in the San Francisco Bay Area. One of the great tech movements that's taking place out here is cloud technology, or software as a service, which enables businesses and institutions to leverage powerful technologies without the burden of installing software or hardware, and with the added benefit of it being dynamic and adaptable. And so what that means for something like online training, it's suddenly possible to develop, host, and deploy an entire training environment, including the courseware, learning management functionality, and even the data storage piece completely in the cloud. And so we talk about how burdensome the Campus Save Act mandates can be for an institution, but honestly, without cloud technology, this would be an entirely different level of financial and infrastructural burden for ongoing course development, customization, installation, deployment, compliance monitoring, and legal updates. So the cost would be considerable. So it's pretty cool that we live in a time where we can effectively crowdsource a solution by leveraging online compliance training companies like ours to develop programs quickly and in a cost-effective way. And so I'm going to go through the course content, some of the tracking and reporting, some of the compliance expertise. So just a general overview of the undergrad program. And so we're best known for our instructional design aspect here at Law Room and CampusClarity, where we've won NASPA awards, we've won Stevie awards, and so we believe that students should learn and be engaged. And so we developed our undergrad program with over 40 student focus groups at 18 institutions. We use silhouettes because we found out during the focus group testing that students were very receptive to silhouettes because it removed racial bias and facial expressions. And so we have a house party situation here. So in the course, this is a fully animated, interactive scenario. So you choose your own adventure. You go in and select different rooms in the house to see different scenarios taking place. So I select a situation where Alan is taking a very intoxicated Dominique into the bedroom. So as a bystander, what are we going to do? So we go and get Nabuki to confront Alan, and Alan says, hey, Dominique's fine, we've been dancing all night. So we ask a question, what should Nabuki say? So if I answer, if she's been dancing all night, she's probably interested. That's a bad call. That's the wrong answer. Dancing does not consent to anything. This could have led to sexual assault. So I actually have to go back and answer this question correctly to move on. So I go back and I say, hey, Alan, I don't think that's a good idea. Dominique's had a lot to drink. Why don't you call her tomorrow? And so Alan hands Dominique to Nabuki. We've intervened to stop a potential sexual assault. We say, nice work. This can be important. This can be intimidating, but it's important to act when you think that something is wrong. We also know it's critical that there's learning points so that students can't just go on autopilot and click through the material without paying attention and being engaged. So when I get an answer incorrect, I have to go back and get it right. So I get some feedback. It lets me know why I got it wrong. I go back, I select the correct answer, I get some feedback, then I can move on to the next section. So I always have to get everything right to be able to move to the next section. We also believe it's critical to incorporate substance and alcohol abuse prevention in the course, and so this is a very innovative way to assess how alcohol is affecting decisions and judgments around driving and consenting to sex. So I put in that I've had X number of drinks, I'm a male, I weigh a certain weight, time drinking, and it shows here that I'm intoxicated, I'm incapable of operating a motor vehicle, and incapable of giving consent for sex. So I'm going to actually walk us into some of the course content so we can see the look and feel for the undergrad program. And so you'll see right away that there's 4 key areas that we're going to take a look at in this overview that are in the undergrad new student program. And so we have 4 key areas. So we have sex in college, healthy relationships, drug and alcohol abuse prevention, and then sexual assault prevention. So we go right into some of the sex in college. We use a wide range of learning modalities. So there's video, there's case studies, there's animations. You can't hear the audio, but this is fully narrated here. But you just can't hear the audio through the GoToWebinar. And so going into different scenarios, showing the rich media, showing the different interactions, the animations, really will give you some good insight into how we've developed these programs. And you will see everything is closed captioned as well. So I'm going to let some of these scenarios play out, and then we'll go through some of the other interactions. So getting into healthy relationships, we have a same-sex dating violence situation here. So these courses are non-heteronormative, so there are LGBTQ scenarios in the course. And so this goes into a relationship abuse situation with a same-sex couple, and it goes actually into several scenarios throughout this whole section. And so we get into more information about Tom and Alex. And then we get into some interactive scenarios, the making of a good relationship. Am I in a bad relationship? So I have to click on each one of these items. And I get into relationships going from bad to abusive, and all of this is version for Vermont state law. And then we get into the drug and alcohol abuse prevention section. So I look at some bartender videos that show what is and is not a standard drink. So we know that a Long Island iced tea is not a standard drink. We know that a solo cup full of vodka is not a standard drink. So we want to be painfully clear that these are not standard drinks, and this is what a standard drink looks like. And so we have a younger bartender video that's definitely a professional video that we shot. There's 3, there's a series. And so once this video is through, we go into a scenario questions and answers. So which one is a standard drink? I know it's not the mojito. I got that wrong. I know it's the 5 ounces of wine is the standard drink. We also get into recognizing alcohol poisoning. So this activity saved a student about 1.5 years ago at the University of Idaho. Another student was able to recognize the signs of alcohol abuse and was able to intervene and help and get help. And so really helpful that this was really worked in a situation that a student did save another student, which is what this is all about. Then we get into what to do, so recognizing the signs and what to do once you've spotted those signs. And then lastly, we'll actually show how to do the Bacchus maneuver. And then we'll get into some other activities. So we look at the substance abuse, so the effects of drugs on the body. So we know opiates is a big problem right now. So we can change the sex from a male to a female, short-term to long-term. And then we can click on the heart, the brain, and the lungs. And then lastly, getting into sexual assault. So we have a trigger warning. And this is a situation where a male student manipulates a female student to come back to his place and has sex with her while she's passed out. And we know that that is sexual assault, so we want to let students know that that is not a consensual situation, and that how are ways that we can stop this. We have this awesome video that we developed with the University of San Francisco that illustrates consent using a smartphone. You may have seen this elsewhere. It's gone viral. We did build this with USF. We get into acquaintance assault, so looking at the different stages: intrusion, desensitization, and then isolation. Talking about what is Title IX, a link to your Title IX coordinator, all of the important components, which we'll talk about here shortly, and then a survivor's reaction to an assault. And so just to walk through a few key points of this, so we talk about accessibility. So all of our courses are WCAG 2.0 level AA, which is the highest accessibility standard in the country. So we put it in writing, and I know a lot of other vendors tout that they have fully accessible programming, and they really don't, because it is much easier said than done. And so we put it in writing. We brought in experts to make sure that all of our courses are fully accessible. And we work with the University of California system as well as the California State University system, and those folks as well as the Ohio State wouldn't be doing business with us if we weren't fully accessible. We talk about a tailored experience, so it's critical that the course is tailored to the institution, so there's a consistent message across the organization. So the course has to have the look and feel of each unique campus to maximize the learning experience. And so for the faculty staff, there's much less branding, but for faculty or for students, we have your logo, we have your welcome letter, we have your campus photos, we have your sexual misconduct policy, as well as your drug and alcohol abuse policy, which requires an electronic signature. So in the event of an issue, you do have that information. We also have ongoing education. So each year we're creating new courseware to refocus student and employee engagement on current topics that are relevant in the higher ed space. And so for the student side, we have a holistic approach which encompasses 10 courses. So we have primary prevention programs for undergrads, for adult learners, graduate students, community college students. We have follow-up courses so that you can retest student behavior and the in the 60 days, 90 days, 120-day time frame. We have sanctioned courses. We have the annual refresher course as well. So we know that there's a four-step approach to behavior change in how our customers use our program. So there's primary prevention training, there's follow-up courses, there's an annual ongoing training, and then an annual climate survey to test and see how programs are working. This shows the annual ongoing refresher course that's to be made available to all students on a yearly basis, and this course changes every year, so folks aren't going to have to go through the same material over again. We also have a great on-campus campaign, which includes posters, PowerPoints, articles, handouts, facilitator-led discussion guides. So this is more ground game on-campus information to help facilitate the program and show that this is the program to help students stay safe. We talk about course deployment, so whether you have 200 students or 20,000, an area concern is how you're going to monitor, track, and deploy this to make sure that employees and students are getting this done. So whether you're doing something internally or using another solution, you don't want this to be someone's full-time job. So we do a batch upload of names and emails. We can also do single sign-on integrations. We can do automated course assignments. So the sky's the limit from an integration standpoint, but this is a separate and distinct learning management system than the employee side of our business, and it's designed specifically for students. So there's notifications you set up that go out by email that are branded to each campus. There's automated email reminders. That's a set it and forget it function to let folks know they need to get this done. And so Ball State put out an article about 6 months ago where they received an 87% completion rate for students with just automated email reminders, which is phenomenal. So no fines, no registration holds. So it just shows that folks are very receptive to the program and that we give you the tools to make sure that they're completing it. We look at participation reports. There's demographic reports, which allows you to build your own climate surveys or use templated sample. In New York, we had enough is enough. In Illinois, in Minnesota, we have laws that have changed. And so the reason that we've had so much success is there isn't another solution that provides this level of compliance and quality that our program offers. Another requirement is on and off campus resources have to be specific in the course. So every course is customized with your on and off campus resources as well as your conduct process. And so just to give a little information about Law Room CampusClarity, and I'd be remiss to share with you, to not share with you Law Room's compliance expertise, and so not a sales pitch. Owe it to you to give you information about Law Room, and it should be a big deal for any campus SAVAC solution. So Law Room has over 20 years of compliance expertise servicing tens of thousands of organizations along the way. Our founder's a lawyer. We have 7 lawyers on staff to make sure the courses are relevant and up to date. We've added 3 more, so we're now at 10 lawyers. And so we trained over 1.5 million employees and students last year at over 1,500 organizations. Over 650 colleges and universities rely and trust us for Title IX and the Campus Save Act. And so some of my folks that I work with in Vermont Law School, Vermont College of Fine Arts, and then Middlebury, but we also have Yale, Harvard, NYU, and Columbia on the East Coast, to Stanford, USC, and the whole University of California system on the West Coast. And so we can pause here. I'm happy to answer any questions. If folks have questions, if they would like to put those in the question box, I can answer those. Also have my contact information on the screen, so if there are questions that you'd like to discuss offline, my phone number here, my email is here. If you'd like access to the courses, we can make that happen. I do appreciate Sophie and Taryn for putting this together. I will be sending out a recording as well, so if you have colleagues that couldn't make it, feel free to share the information with your colleagues. And we can hold this open for another couple of minutes if there are questions, comments, or concerns. Well, I appreciate everyone's time today. Like I said, I am going to get this recording out to Sophie so that she can distribute it out. And if there's any questions, feel free to reach out to me anytime. Thank you, everyone, for taking some time today to take a look at the undergrad program. Have a great rest of your week.